Hey, how's it going, guys? Mr. Boss for the win here, and in today's GTA 5 video, we're going to be talking about an iconic Grand Theft Auto feature that almost never made its way into the game. I found this to be a really cool article on PCGamer.com. It was written by Jack Yarwood, and the article is, before Grand Theft Auto's radio became iconic, it was a fight just to get it in the game. How the scrappy audio team at DMA Design implemented a feature no one wanted and helped make GTA a phenomenon. So right off the bat, that's really cool because, yes, the radios that you hear on the street when you're walking by cars, when you get in vehicles and you turn on and the music starts blasting, that's a big part of what makes GTA GTA. So the article goes on to say, it's hard to imagine the Grand Theft Auto series without its radio stations. The radio doesn't just provide a steady stream of music while running a red light or crashing into the nearest post box, it delivers a flavor of what the world is like without the player around, bombarding the listener with satirical advertisements and bizarre talk show radios that are always seconds away from going off the rails. They've been a key part of Grand Theft Auto since the very first entry in 1997, but they almost didn't make it into the game at all. In the beginning, GTA's radio stations were actually the result of an audio team experimenting against the employer's wishes. Colin Anderson is the person you have to thank for bringing radio to Grand Theft Auto. A member of the sound department at DMA Design, Grand Theft Auto's original developers, Colin Anderson came up with the idea when speaking to Craig Connor, a musician working on the first GTA. Connor had been developing demos for the game in a wide range of musical genres, and Anderson knew that they would likely need to scrap 2/3 of them when they settled on a singular style. To unify the various genres into something coherent and save the tracks, Anderson suggested separating them by genre and creating different radio stations for each style of music. He went on to say this, "It was when I said, if only we could get radio stations in it. It was his reaction," Anderson explains. "Seeing him say that would work, that would be really cool. That was the moment, but it took a long time after that. We had to start with, how would a radio station work in that world? And that's when I realized it would work even better if we put them in the cars." The article goes on to say the introduction of radio changed everything, according to Anderson. Prior to this, the soundtrack was going to be MIDI-based, an unfortunate byproduct of the plans to simultaneously release on N64 in addition to PC and PlayStation. But when the N64 port was canceled and the radio feature was introduced, the team took advantage of the CD quality sound to replicate real-life radio stations more closely. Although some within the studio welcomed the decision with open arms, it wasn't very popular. Audio at the time wasn't high on DMA Design's list of priorities. Anderson remembers the sound team feeling especially motivated to do a great job on the first Grand Theft Auto, going on to say, "As a department within DMA Design, we wanted to have a calling card, a showcase of what we could do with sound and music in video games. Then I don't have to go and have the same argument that I have to have every time that we start a project with a producer and a lead programmer about how we're getting no memory budget, no processor budget, and we're not allowed to have any storage space, whether it's on a cart or whether it's a CD or whatever." Ironically, it was that typical lack of interest that gave the team the buffer to eventually be able to make radio stations work. During the development of Grand Theft Auto, DMA Design moved the audio department into what Anderson now refers to affectionately as not quite the broom closet, but it wasn't far off from that. This environment allowed them to develop ideas for the radio without much oversight. The ideas for advertisements and radio DJs both sprung from those broom closet brainstorming sessions, though neither appeared until the sequel due to memory and budget issues. Anderson goes on to say, "It was out of sight, out of mind. We could do pretty much anything we wanted to over there, so a lot of experimentation happened because of that. The additional time also gave them the chance to win over the rest of the team, too." The article goes on to say, Grand Theft Auto featured 7 radio stations in total, with stations divided into hip-hop, funk, pop, rock, country, house, and drum and bass. All of these were made up of entirely original compositions from DMA Design's musicians, with Anderson deciding to make the absence of licensed music a core tenet of the series. Though this was fine for the first game, after Grand Theft Auto released and the radio feature proved an overwhelming success with fans, that idea wouldn't last. In between GTA and GTA 2, there was a noticeable change in attitude towards the radio. with the studio willing to invest more in the idea. And during GTA 2's development, DMA Design's publisher Rockstar and its Canadian studio Rockstar Toronto make 2 London-based expansions for the original game, GTA London 1961 and GTA London 1969. These games were made without Anderson's involvement and featured licensed music from musical acts such as the Upsetters and Harry J. All-Stars. Those bands would do a lot of virtual world building for the 60s settings at the expense of diluting DMA Design's original version of GTA, being set in a parallel universe that was distinct from our own. More importantly for Rockstar, the radio became a powerful marketing tool. Reviews praised the role of the radio in establishing the tone. A review for Eurogamer claimed the radio added to the dodgy atmosphere of the game, while a reviewer from IGN commented, "The great big dose of late 60s British music." Anderson goes on to say, "That essentially broke the purity of the creative vision. I was kind of upset about that at the time because I didn't know anything about these products. They appeared from nowhere." And ultimately, it boiled down to a difference of opinion. Rockstar's co-founders on one side, Anderson and the music department on the other. While the co-founders Sam Houser and Terry Donovan were keen on licensing a number of existing bands for Grand Theft Auto to try and raise the status of the games, Anderson instead wanted to utilize GTA as a platform to distribute new local music in response to the declining fortunes of the record industry in the late 90s. It was going to be much longer term, and that was a bridge too far, Anderson explains. I had this idea of creating almost like a mini Motown Records here in Dundee, where we're using local talent. We're finding people who are creating hot music kind of as a vehicle to regenerate the city and help the local creative scene. But that just never flew. Anderson didn't get entirely his way with GTA 2, but it only used a few licensed songs, and its commercials and DJs played a huge part in developing the series' satirical voice with advertisements such as Third World Bank, enticing rich business owners to invest their money in harmful industries abroad to protect their money from a financial collapse. Another for a nasal wake-up spray called Zoom Zoom marketed a cocaine alternative to tired workers. The film and television director Michael Keller was responsible for writing these ads at DMA Design. And despite not being involved with future games, you can see Keller's influence on GTA 3, such as in the Iris running shoes ad from the game, which satirized American companies using child labor to make sneakers. Both took an irrelevant look at real issues through exaggerated talk radio. At the time, Grand Theft Auto 2 received mixed reviews for sticking too closely to the original, but it earned a lot of praise for its radio and sound effects. Dean Austin at IGN, for example, wrote at the time that the radio is a very nice device to interject different styles and moods and complement the environment. It's also pretty entertaining as you get not only music stations, but also talk radio and commercials. Here, the music is a unique tool to encourage gamers to simply search out new vehicles just to see what's playing on the radio. Now, Anderson left Rockstar Games after working on Grand Theft Auto 2 and pre-production for GTA 3. By the time he left, he had said he achieved most everything he had wanted to with the radio stations, from establishing the core experience on GTA and introducing radio hosts and advertisements in its sequel. He decided letting a new team take over allowed the series to go in an exciting new direction with the same level of enthusiasm as when he began. And the last thing he says in the article is, the chance that anyone gets to work on a project that has such a big impact on so many people, so few people get a chance to do that in their lives, and to have a chance to do that is an incredible privilege. I'm really glad that I and other people who were around at the time stepped away from GTA because I don't think it would have become the huge franchise that it is. So I think that last quote right there is significant from Anderson because he was the one who didn't want, licensed songs. So for example, when you turn on GTA 5's radio, you're going to hear songs that you might hear every single day, especially in Grand Theft Auto Online with the introduction of the new radio stations. If Anderson had gotten his way, it would have just been like made-up songs that were created in-house at Rockstar. So you wouldn't hear your favorite musicians and rock stars, rappers, and DJs on the radio. You would hear these like made-up songs and sounds of various different music genres. And to a degree, the radio is kind of the weirdest pieces of Grand Theft Auto because it really is the only thing where real life comes into the game. Everything else about Grand Theft Auto is a parody of American culture, but the songs are from real-life musicians and artists. So it does sort of break that barrier right there. And it does make you wonder what a modern day Grand Theft Auto would be like GTA 5, for example, if it didn't have any of the songs we know and love today on the radio station. Do you think the game would be worse off for it? Do you think it would be the same? Do you think it would be better? Let me know what you guys are thinking in those comments down below. I would love to hear from you guys down there. If you guys did go on to enjoy this video, though, a like rating would, of course, be awesome. And be sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you are new, or you want to stay up to date on all the latest GTA and Red Dead Redemption videos that I'm doing here on my channel. And be sure to ring that notification bell as well. Sometimes YouTube just doesn't work, and if you ring that bell, you'll always be guaranteed to be notified when new videos arrive. But of course, as always, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Take care, and I'll see you guys in the next video.